Welcome to Guns and Gear Network, everyone. I wanted to bring you this video about survival fishing kits. And just a little background about myself. I've been fishing ever since I was a kid, over 30 years of it. And I've fished for all kinds of species of fish, different kind of conditions, freshwater, saltwater, small streams, ponds, lakes, you name it, I've fished in it if it was a puddle of water. So got a lot of experience in fishing. I been pretty successful in my fishing over the years, even fished some tournaments and so forth. So I know a little bit about fishing and wanted to put together what I think is good for a fishing survival kit. So I see all these survival fishing kits all the time, and wanted to give my take on what I think should go in them. You can buy pre-made survival fishing kits. I do not recommend doing that, and the reason is because you can buy, sometimes it has stuff you don't need, sometimes it may not have, too much of one thing, not enough of the other, this, that, and the other. I kind of like building my own. And as I show you these things, you'll understand why. These things are the things that I recommend that is a must-have. When you look at long-term survival, you need to be able to have ways to source your food, and if you've got a body of water near you, you need to take advantage of the species of fish and so forth that's in it, and the wildlife that lives in and around the water. So it's an excellent source, and I think that you need to understand what you need and kind of how to use it. Now, I'm not going to go into a lot of how to use it today. It's a whole nother video, but I at least want to show you, if you're trying to put together a survival fishing kit, this is what I recommend. So the first thing I would recommend is, and maybe this is not in any particular order, but one of the things, I'm going to kind of go left to right of what I got here. These right here are called fishing yo-yos. There's plenty of videos about these. This one is the White's Auto Fisher. A few different versions, a few different brands. I would make sure you buy one that's made in the USA. The reason I recommend having one of these, at least one in your kit, is because you can take this and put it, you can kind of set it, kind of like a trap, which is basically what this is, a fishing trap. I can set this and forget about it, and then come back later to find it. What happens is, once you set it through this method here, a fish will come along and tug on the bait, and then it's got a spring system in here that would catch your fish. I like having things that can do work for me while I'm doing something else, and I could set this every day, a couple times a day, and hopefully, continue to have some fish without doing a lot of effort. Wouldn't depend on this solely, but I would at least have one of these. I have mine fashioned with some 550 cord already. You could, you don't have to do that, but I prefer to have mine at least, and this may not work in every situation the way I have it rigged here, but at least I know I have something to work with. If I have just the unit itself, then it's not going to work like that, so I'll need to have it where I can fashion it. The way I have this, I have a big loop here, and then you would run it into into the hole and around, and this right here would hang on a tree limb like that. So that is that's the way I like having mine pre-rigged, if you will, and I would highly recommend at least having one of these, and there's plenty of videos of people using these and showing you about these. I have one of these. You need some fishing line. Now, I have mine on this little wooden dowel I just cut off and then wrapped it. When you wrap it this small, your line is going to have what's called memory. It's going to be kind of curly, which can be a little problematic at times, but this right here is the most compact way to put it in a small kit, is doing something like this. And you don't want to have the heaviest line, like say a 12, 14, 16 pound line. You don't want the smallest, like 3 to 6 pound. I try to kind of go in the middle, somewhere between 6 and 8 pound test is what I use. This right here is actually colored green. You can use clear, whatever. But get you some good line and put it like that. A couple hundred yards of it, pretty easy. That's probably 100 yards of line, believe it or not, on that. So that'll last you a long time setting up small cane pole style fishing rigs. So next, you're going to need some hooks. And if you look at some of the pre-made kits that I've seen on the market, they'll literally have 6 or 8 hooks. And to me, I want to be able to have things on hand in my bag that's hard to recreate in nature through bushcraft skills. And hooks are not easy to fashion. Not dependable and reliable ones. And fish hooks are cheap, and they don't weigh a lot, and you can keep literally a couple hundred of them on in your bag. There's probably in this little pack here. These are little small bait hooks, live bait hooks. There's probably 20, 25 just in that little bitty pack there, and I try at least having a few varied sizes. The old saying goes, bigger the hook, bigger the fish. And that's somewhat true, so you got to keep that in mind. But I like having some varied sizes. Now, this right here is what's called a trot line hook. I like keeping, not many, but I'll keep probably 6 or 8 of these in my bag. And the trot line hook is designed to tie to a string and run it out through a trot line. If you don't know what a trot line is, you can look the definition of that up. Won't go into details of that. But what I can use this for is I can tie a piece of bank line or 550 cord, strip out the 550 cord and get a smaller the core piece inside of this, and I can hang it from a sturdy limb with some bait on it, and it's kind of like the yo-yo fisher here. It is another way to secure bait, and you can also make traps and stuff out of these. These are very heavy duty and so forth, but I keep a handful of these so I can do some trot line style fishing. Then I have some medium size, then I have these smaller bait hooks here, and then what I always do is I keep a few of these jig heads, probably 6, 8 of these. These are lead with a hook already built in, and the reason I keep those is because I always recommend having some backup artificial bait. If you can't secure natural bait, live bait, I like having a little backup. So what I'll do is I'll have some little grubs like this. I may, this Berkeley Gulp, obviously I wouldn't keep it in this big container. I would take, maybe half of this container and put it into a small Ziploc bag. These are semi-artificial / live bait mimic. These are here called the maggots, and they're just little pieces of what looks like a maggot. And they smell because they're impregnated with some smelly stuff that attracts the fish. Excellent bait if you want to have some of that on hand. And then, like I said, I keep some jig heads and so forth in little packs like that, because you want to be able to secure some live bait, and I'll talk about that here in a minute. The other thing I would keep is some lead weights. These right here are the split style that you can crimp onto a line, is the way these are used. And there's actually some snap swivels also in this little pack here. These snap swivels, I like those. It makes changing hook sizes and so forth easier. The snap swivel also, when your fish gets on it, on your line, it keeps, I'll show you one of those. So I would keep a handful of these little snap swivels, and what this does, you tie your line at one end, and then your hook would go here, and it's kind of like a safety pin. You push in, and you slide your hook on like that, and you fashion it back kind of like a safety pin. And with this also, when the fish is fighting and twirling around and fighting and stuff, it doesn't kink your line, and because it's got a swivel in it. So that's kind of how I keep a handful of those. You don't have to have those, but if you like I said, they take up a lot of space, and they don't weigh anything, so I'll keep a handful of those. And then this right here is the style split. Your line would go in here, and then you would just crimp it down tight. And it's wonder I don't have lead poison in as many of those I've opened and closed with my mouth over the years. Probably not good for me, but don't do that anymore. I try using multi tools and stuff like that now instead of using my mouth. But for the longest time I used my mouth opening and closing those crazy things. But anyway, I always keep some lead weights. Those help keep the bait down. Especially when you're dealing with really lightweight bait like these little grubs or live bait. It'll help. It also helps with the casting, being able to get enough weight out there to get the line further away from you. So you'll need those things. Then you don't have to have this, but I like having some on hand, is some bobbers. Now, you've got a few different style bobbers. This right here is the traditional plastic style. I don't like these. I will occasionally just have these in a bug out bag because they're handy, but I wouldn't leave with just these. And the reason is, if these get a hole or cracked, they will leak and they will not work. They'll get water in them and they'll just won't work. So I prefer these styrofoam ones. they even if they break, you can still fashion something out of this and make it work. The way this one works, you run the line through here, and this peg goes in the top or the bottom to keep the line from this going up and down your line to whatever height you want your depth, your line to be. So your bait. So that's how this works. I prefer these. Again, if these break or crack or anything like that, they're still usable. You can make something out of this and use it. This breaks, you're pretty much done. It doesn't really work anymore. This style is very similar to this one in that it's made of styrofoam, but it also has a lead piece here that's weighted. This has a little more moving parts, so it's not as durable in my opinion, because this right here could break, but at least I've still got this that I could use. This lead weight here is designed to help you in casting. Puts a little weight out there to be able to cast it, so I could even have a real lightweight bait, but yet this right here would assist in getting the line castable because of this little lead weight here on the end of this. So you have those. Then you're going to need a way to keep your fish. And in a survival situation, you're not going to be able to have a bucket or something with you usually that would hold enough fish. So always keep a stringer. Now this is a commercial stringer. I think this actually came out of a fishing kit that I bought for my son one day or something. But I want to show you an example of one. You're going to need a stringer. You can make one out of anything, any type of cordage, or you can buy one of these little commercial ones. They're not that much, buck or two. So how these work, you have an end here and this little ring here. The way this works, let's say this is the fish and this is his mouth right here in the front. This right here is his gill section. So you would open up the gill section and slide this right there and out his mouth. Then you would run this all the way through and back around to this end piece, and then it would come down on his mouth like that, around his gill, and then that. And then the rest of the fish you catch, once that one is on, then you'll just literally slide it in through the back of their gills and out their mouth, and then you'll be able to hold your fish. So I highly recommend having something like this to be able, once you catch your fish, to be able to secure them until you need to use them to eat. So a couple warnings about stringers. Make sure they're secured very well to some type of limb or something at the bank or wherever you're fishing. You know, even if you got a heavy enough bug out bag, you can just tie it to your bug out bag, but it needs to be secured very well. You don't want your fish getting away that you just spent all that time catching. The other thing is, while you're fishing, make sure you're paying attention to your fish on the stringer, because what happens is, and I've had this happen to me, I've had snapping turtles come up and either just destroy the fish you just caught because they're sitting there eating them underwater, or they'll literally drag your whole fishing stringer away from you and take it. So keep an eye on your stringer, making sure that there's no turtles or anything, and making sure that it's very secure somehow to the bank area. Like I said, it could be tied around anything that's secure, but make sure that it is secure so you don't lose your fish that you just caught. Another thing that I would keep in a bug out kit, survival fishing kit, is some of these, which are safety pins. You can actually clip these with a multi-tool and use these this end of it to make eyes. If you're going to fashion some type of fishing rod, if you will, similar to a cane pole style, on the rod tip, I can take something like this and either take some duct tape or some other type of bank line or something, and I can secure this to the tip of my fishing rod, and now I have a fishing eye. You may have to bend this around a little bit to make it work, but you actually can make fishing eyes similar on a fishing rod out of these, and these are obviously multi-purpose, used for many things, but they can be used to make eyes for a makeshift fishing rod. So I'll keep, you know, a bunch of these in my bug out bag anyway, but just wanted to show you those. And I have different sizes, but so you've got those. And but yeah, guys, I wanted to bring this little video. I think that you know, people talk about ounces equal pounds and pounds equal pain. I can tell you, I'm going to suffer the pain a little more with items that I feel like I need. And I think a good fishing kit, if you're near, obviously if you're in the desert, this don't apply or whatever, but if you're near any bodies of water that would have any type of fish in it, you need to have a good solid fishing kit. And these commercial ones that are available, a lot of times they just don't cut it. I'm not saying there are not any out there that are good quality that have the necessary items, but a lot of them fall short. Matter of fact, I debated on designing one myself personally and selling it, and I actually may do that one day. I just hadn't got around to it. That I think is got everything that you need. And but anyway, this right here is some things that I think that is a must-have. You've got to have these items if you're going to have a survival fishing kit. There's no reason to have a survival fishing kit, and then have a survival fishing kit with 6 hooks in it. Why not? You know, the hooks is the main thing. You know, I can do a lot of things with everything else, because I can make cordage or whatever out of a lot of different things, either clothing, string, you know, line that I would have, paracord, or everything else. This right here is the hardest thing to make. You can't make these easily through bushcraft skills, and they don't weigh anything. They don't take up a lot of space. So again, prioritize what you need and make sure you have enough of it. So anyway, guys, I won't drag this out a little any longer, but I just wanted to touch base with you on what I think is a good survival fishing kit. If one thing I will touch base on real quick is securing bait. Things to keep in mind. If you're going to, some of the things you can use for live bait is like grubs. Grubs can be found under deadfall, especially around old rotting logs and stumps and so forth. If you'll just peel back some bark or some rotting material from that log or stump, usually there's a lot of grubs that'll be in there, and they'll make good bait. Anything, maggots make good bait that's on meat. If you've got something in the woods that's died, that's got maggots, they make good bait. Obviously worms, and grasshoppers, crickets, all those make good baits. Keep in mind, guys, when you're out there securing this bait, some of these animals, some of these insects you're going to be getting can possibly be poisonous and or cause allergic reaction if they bite or sting you. So be very cognitive of that, and think about what you're doing, and don't just go out here and start grabbing up any, you know, critter you find, insect crawling, and stick it on a hook. You may get bit and you may have an allergic reaction to it, and you do not want to get in that situation, especially in a survival situation. So think about that. So anyway, guys, I just wanted to bring this little video to you. If you have any questions, post those below. If you have any suggestions and or experience in things we've discussed today, be sure to share those with us. If you would, like, share, and subscribe, and we'll be bringing you another video here shortly, guys. I appreciate you tuning in. Have a good day.